For years, Tom Holland has stood as a beacon of humility and charm in the sometimes ruthless and cutthroat world of Hollywood. As the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, he won the hearts of millions with his boyish charm, athletic talent, and genuine humility. From fans and co-stars to directors and media personalities, almost everyone had the same thing to say about Holland: he was the nicest guy in the room. But Hollywood is far more complicated than the smiling faces seen on red carpets and press tours. Behind the cameras and glamorous lights, there lies a network of fragile egos, professional rivalries, and secret tensions. It's a place where actors are often forced to be cordial for the sake of contracts, careers, and public images, even when deep-seated resentment boils beneath the surface. So when news broke that Tom Holland had, for the first time, privately named 7 actors he strongly disliked, people he reportedly hated working with, it shocked the entertainment world. Could it really be true? Could one of the industry's most beloved young actors harbor genuine dislike for fellow A-listers? Why now? And more importantly, who are these 7 people? This video dives deep into the revelations that have quietly surfaced over the past 2 years, from private statements shared in therapy sessions and leaks from close friends to subtle jabs in interviews and cryptic remarks on podcasts. But first, to understand how this seemingly perfect actor reached his breaking point, we must start from the beginning, where Tom Holland's journey in the entertainment world began. Born on June 1, 1996, in Kingston upon Thames, England, Thomas Stanley Holland was destined for the spotlight, though few could have predicted the astronomical heights he would one day reach. The eldest of 4 brothers, Tom was raised in a creative household. His father, Dominic Holland, was a well-known British comedian and author, while his mother, Nicola Frost, was a respected photographer. From a young age, Tom showed a natural inclination toward performing. His journey began in dance. Inspired by Janet Jackson and later by ballet, Tom enrolled in a local dance school. But what started as a way to channel youthful energy quickly evolved into a passion that caught the attention of casting agents. By the age of 12, Tom landed the titular role in the West End production of Billy Elliot the Musical, a part that demanded rigorous dance, acting, and emotional strength. Even then, those around him noticed something special, a blend of discipline, raw talent, and humility. Tom's major cinematic breakthrough came in 2012 with the critically acclaimed film The Impossible, where he starred alongside Naomi Watts and Ewan McGregor. His haunting performance as a young boy surviving the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami earned him international recognition and marked him as a future star. But nothing compared to what came next. In 2015, after a secretive and competitive audition process, Tom was cast as Peter Parker/Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. His debut in Captain America: Civil War was brief but electric, enough to send fans into a frenzy and studio executives into applause. Unlike previous Spider-Men, Holland brought a youthful authenticity and comic book accuracy that felt fresh and relatable. His solo MCU films, Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home, shattered box office records, and Tom quickly became one of the most bankable stars in the world. Through it all, Tom maintained his reputation for being humble, polite, and deeply grateful for his opportunities. He joked about accidentally spoiling Marvel secrets, praised his co-stars in interviews, and often teared up when talking about how much his career meant to him. Yet, behind the scenes, fame brought a different set of challenges. The relentless pressure, non-stop public scrutiny, and high expectations began to wear on him. More importantly, as he moved deeper into the heart of Hollywood, he began to encounter personalities that clashed with his values. Some were overly competitive, others manipulative, and a few were downright toxic. Tom tried to remain professional, smiling on red carpets, shaking hands, doing press events with actors he didn't even like. But with time, the weight of forced civility became unbearable. And eventually, he began to confide in close friends and therapists about the names that still haunted him, not because of trauma, but because of the emotional baggage they left behind. Before we dive into these names, it's important to understand why Hollywood forces people into these uncomfortable positions in the first place. From the outside, Hollywood looks like a dream factory, glamorous, thrilling, and dripping with wealth and fame. But beneath that glitzy surface lies a complex web of relationships built not on love, but on necessity. Actors are routinely told to keep it professional. This means being polite to people they dislike, appearing on camera with individuals they may resent, and smiling through interviews with co-stars who made life miserable behind the scenes. For many actors, including Tom Holland, this was one of the hardest realities to accept. The film industry often relies on illusion, not just on screen, but off-screen too. Studios craft stories, but they also craft images of their stars. The illusion that everyone on a movie set is best friends is part of marketing. Happy cast, happy moviegoers. For Tom, this meant years of pretending to enjoy working with people who drained his energy. He did it out of professionalism. out of loyalty to fans, out of respect for the films he was promoting. But it wasn't easy. On many occasions, Tom's body language in interviews spoke louder than his words. Fans noticed slight hesitations when asked about certain co-stars. Observers pointed out how his eyes shifted, or how his answers suddenly became rehearsed and vague. These were the early signs of discomfort, a polite British actor trying not to offend, but clearly battling internal friction. A former assistant on a Marvel set once said anonymously, "Tom never lost his temper." But there were a few actors that, after the camera stopped rolling, he'd walk away from immediately. You could see he was being drained. Even Tom himself hinted at this during a 2023 interview on a British podcast. "There are a few people I've worked with that I learned a lot from. Not in a good way. Just how not to treat people." He didn't name names then. But the cracks were showing. He later revealed in therapy sessions that he had been suppressing resentment for years. He spoke about the psychological exhaustion of pretending to like people who manipulated, insulted, or dismissed him on set. Eventually, he compiled a list, a private one, of 7 actors who had caused him the most emotional harm. This list was never intended to go public. But in true Hollywood fashion, secrets rarely stay hidden for long. Whispers started to emerge. Leaked conversations with trusted sources. And soon, the identities of those 7 actors became an open secret within industry circles. Coming up next, the first name on that list. A man who, on the surface, seemed like a close friend of Tom Holland. A fellow Marvel actor with undeniable chemistry on screen, Jake Gyllenhaal. But behind the scenes, the truth was far from friendly. To the public, Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal had one of the most endearing bromance in Marvel history. From sharing laughs during the Spider-Man, Far From Home press tour to hugging on red carpets and teasing each other in interviews, they appeared inseparable. Fans even coined them as Jakey and Tommy, a duo that seemed to have genuine chemistry. But as the saying goes in Hollywood, the bigger the smiles, the deeper the tension behind them. Their connection began in 2018, when Jake Gyllenhaal joined the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Mysterio, the main antagonist in Far From Home. The film's plot required deep on-screen bonding between the characters Peter Parker and Quentin Beck. Naturally, both actors were placed together on press tours, photo shoots, and interviews for over a year. And while it started well, things quickly began to fall apart. Jake Gyllenhaal is a veteran actor, with critically acclaimed films like Nightcrawler, Prisoners, and Brokeback Mountain under his belt. Coming into Marvel, he brought with him a serious presence and years of experience. For Tom, who was still in his early 20s, this was initially exciting, working alongside a star he had admired since childhood. But the honeymoon phase didn't last. Several insiders on set reported that Jake would often overshadow Tom during interviews. "Jake is naturally charismatic, but it crossed into arrogance at times," said one anonymous Marvel crew member. "He'd dominate conversations, interrupt Tom mid-sentence, and treat him like a little kid." Tom, ever the professional, smiled through it. But privately, he felt dismissed and diminished. In an off-the-record comment to a friend, Tom once said, "He kept joking about how I was just the kid from Billy Elliot. I laughed, but it got under my skin." Behind the camera, creative disagreements also surfaced. Jake, known for being intense and methodical, frequently challenged the script and even his co-stars' performances. Tom, whose energy leaned toward collaborative and instinctual acting, found Jake's approach overbearing. One particular scene, an emotionally charged rooftop conversation between Spider-Man and Mysterio, was reportedly reshot multiple times because Jake kept questioning the emotional depth of Tom's delivery. "It was humiliating," a crew member said. "Tom wasn't doing anything wrong, but Jake wanted everything done his way." After filming wrapped, the two barely communicated beyond the required press events. And although their public appearances continued to project closeness, Tom had begun emotionally checking out. During a 2019 interview on the BBC's The One Show, Jake made a sarcastic remark that turned heads. "Tom's great. He's like a really enthusiastic puppy. You have to keep him focused." Tom laughed awkwardly, but fans noticed his eyes dropped, his smile faltered, and for a moment, the facade slipped. Later, in private therapy, Tom reflected on how he felt belittled throughout the shoot. "It was like being gaslighted by someone the world kept praising," he reportedly said. In 2022, when asked on a podcast which co-star was the hardest to work with, Tom chuckled and said, "He's a fantastic actor. Not necessarily my vibe off-camera though." No names were given. But by then, fans had begun connecting the dots. Jake Gyllenhaal remains silent on the rumors. He's never spoken ill of Tom, but he's also never denied the tension. They haven't worked together since, and Tom has made it clear in private circles, he has no interest in reuniting professionally. Number 2. Miles Teller. While their paths never directly crossed in a shared film, Tom Holland and Miles Teller's animosity reportedly stems from a collision of ego, attitude, and off-screen disrespect. Miles Teller is no stranger to controversy. Known for his roles in Whiplash, Fantastic Four and Top Gun: Maverick, he's often described as brash, confident, and difficult. In interviews, his tone has bordered on arrogant, and numerous co-stars, including Shailene Woodley and directors like Josh Trank, have subtly hinted at friction while working with him. For Tom, the tension began with what should have been a routine press interaction. In 2018, both actors were invited to a high-profile industry charity gala in Los Angeles. The two were seated at neighboring tables and introduced backstage before the event. According to multiple attendees, Teller made a snide remark upon meeting Tom. Reportedly, he looked at Tom's Spider-Man pin and said, "Man, I wish I could get paid millions just for swinging around in a costume." Tom, caught off guard, chuckled politely. But he later admitted to friends that the comment stung. A few minutes later, while giving a group interview on the red carpet, Teller interrupted Tom mid-sentence and took over the conversation. The footage was cut and never aired, but behind-the-scenes whispers about Miles stepping on Tom's moment began circulating. In 2019, a mid-budget action film titled Velocity was in development. Both Tom and Miles were in talks to co-lead, with a script centering around two rival brothers turned fugitives. However, the project was abruptly cancelled after pre-production delays, and reportedly, behind-the-scenes tension. A studio insider revealed that Tom was hesitant to work with Teller after their initial encounters. Tom didn't want to go into a project where the energy felt toxic from day one. The studio recast both roles entirely rather than push a bad pairing. Although never directly confronting each other online, subtle jabs were traded in public. In a 2020 Esquire article, Miles Teller said, "Some young actors today get by on charm. But that only lasts so long. Eventually, you need substance." Fans took this as a dig at Tom, who had recently starred in Chaos Walking, a film panned for its lack of narrative depth despite Tom's earnest performance. Tom never responded publicly. But shortly after, he tweeted a cryptic message. "Talent with no humility is like a rocket with no direction." Insiders confirm it was about Teller. Tom has since made peace with the incident emotionally, but not relationally. During a private Q&A in London in 2023, when asked which actor he would never collaborate with, he reportedly responded, "You only need to learn that lesson once. There's someone out there who taught me how not to treat people, and I'm grateful in hindsight." Though he didn't name Miles, the timeline and behavior match up. Teller has continued building his career with a focus on blockbuster roles. Tom, meanwhile, has avoided any press overlap with him entirely. Number 3. Shia LaBeouf. Before ever meeting Shia LaBeouf in person, Tom Holland held a deep respect for the actor. Shia's performance in Transformers, Fury, and Honey Boy impressed him, particularly because Shia was seen as a bold, unconventional performer, someone who carved out his own path outside Hollywood's typical structure. But admiration quickly turned into discomfort. In 2017, during an industry mixer for rising and established stars, Tom and Shia were introduced by a mutual agent. Tom, being younger and a fan of Shia's early work, approached him enthusiastically. According to insiders at the event, what followed was a deeply awkward exchange. Shia reportedly said to Tom, "So you're the new Hollywood puppet, huh?" He then laughed and walked away. Tom was stunned. The joke, if that's what it was, felt like a direct insult. Later that night, Shia made further jabs about superhero films being low art and criticized actors who become famous by wearing tights. Though Tom didn't retaliate, those around him noticed he stayed unusually quiet for the rest of the night. "He looked like a kid who just got slapped by his idol," one attendee said. Tom's grounded, collaborative approach to acting didn't align with Shia's erratic, often aggressive style. Shia, known for his confrontational behavior and unpredictable personality, has a history of clashing with co-stars, including Brad Pitt and Megan Fox. In an interview in 2019, Shia was asked about young actors in superhero franchises. "They're good-looking poster boys," he said, "but they're playing dress-up. That's not acting." Many interpreted this as a veiled shot at Tom and other MCU actors. Though Tom never responded directly, during a promotional interview for Cherry, he made a clear statement. "There's no one way to be a serious actor. Some of us don't need to be tortured to deliver honest performances." This was widely believed to be in response to Shia's public persona. Tom later told a close friend that Shia's attitude completely disillusioned him about the idea of meeting heroes. "I thought he was going to be weird in a genius way. But it just felt toxic." He would go on to refer to Shia privately as the kind of artist who makes you feel small, just to feel big. While there were no on-set experiences between the two, Tom has consistently avoided events where Shia might appear and turned down at least one project in 2020 after hearing Shia was loosely attached. Sometimes it's not about working with someone, it's about meeting them and instantly knowing you never want to do so again. Number 4, Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller, best known for playing the Flash in the DCU, has been a lightning rod for controversy. From bizarre public behavior to serious legal allegations, their presence in Hollywood has become both unpredictable and divisive. Tom Holland and Ezra Miller's interactions were brief, but intense enough to leave a lasting mark. In 2018, both stars attended San Diego Comic-Con. Marvel and DC kept their actors separated, but during a backstage corridor meetup, Tom and Ezra briefly crossed paths. An assistant present during the encounter claimed Ezra approached Tom enthusiastically, dressed in an elaborate costume, and began talking very fast, asking odd questions like, "Do you ever feel the spider crawling under your skin? Have you ever wanted to actually swing from a real web?" Tom, unsure if this was a performance or a joke, tried to keep things light. But the encounter quickly escalated. Ezra, in what was described as a performance art moment, began mock-flipping around, getting too close to Tom and knocking over a nearby tray of drinks. Tom laughed awkwardly, but as soon as Ezra left, he reportedly whispered, "That was something else." Later that year, during a charity roundtable, both actors were supposed to appear via Zoom. When Tom realized Ezra was included, he pulled out of the panel at the last minute, citing a schedule conflict. Insiders say he simply didn't want to be near the chaos again. The real break came when Ezra began facing allegations of assault, grooming, and erratic behavior. Though Tom never publicly commented, he quietly unfollowed Ezra on Instagram and asked his team to remove his name from any DC-related crossover panels. In a 2022 interview, when asked what kind of people he avoids in the industry, Tom said, "The ones who mistake eccentricity for talent. You can be different, but don't make other people uncomfortable doing it." It was subtle, but fans knew exactly who he was talking about. Number 5, Ansel Elgort. Ansel Elgort rose to fame quickly, with standout roles in The Fault in Our Stars, Baby Driver, and West Side Story. At first glance, he had much in common with Tom Holland. Both were young, charismatic stars with global fan bases. But according to those close to Tom, their interactions were anything but friendly. In 2019, at the Toronto International Film Festival, Tom and Ansel were both present to promote their respective films. During a private VIP dinner, Ansel allegedly made multiple condescending comments about Tom's fame. "You're lucky you've got Marvel," Ansel reportedly said. "I had to act to get noticed." Tom laughed it off initially but reportedly told his manager afterward, "I'm done with that guy." In early 2020, there was talk of a Netflix original series featuring both Tom and Ansel. But the project was quietly shelved, partly due to scheduling, but also because of growing discomfort. Netflix executives reportedly sensed tension during early development calls. "Tom was polite, but distant," a producer said. "You could tell he didn't want to share the spotlight." In 2020, allegations of inappropriate conduct surfaced against Ansel Elgort. While Ansel denied the accusations, many in Hollywood distanced themselves from him, including Tom. Without making any direct statements, Tom removed old photos featuring both of them from Instagram and canceled a joint online Q&A session. Number 6, Armie Hammer. Before his downfall, Armie Hammer was seen as a rising Hollywood leading man. With roles in Call Me By Your Name, The Social Network, and The Lone Ranger, his future looked bright. But for Tom Holland, there was always something unsettling beneath the surface. In 2018, Tom and Armie were attached to a high-concept survival thriller set in Alaska. Pre-production had begun, and both actors were preparing to spend several months shooting in remote conditions. During their initial meeting, Armie reportedly made Tom deeply uncomfortable. "He was too intense," a source close to Tom said. "He kept talking about the purity of violence in acting and how fear should be real in a scene." Tom, who values emotional safety on set, was taken aback. Within a week, he backed out of the film, citing creative differences. The film was eventually scrapped. Later, when allegations against Armie Hammer surfaced, including disturbing messages and accusations of abuse, Tom remained publicly silent but told his inner circle, "I felt it. Something was off. I'm glad I walked away." In therapy, Tom reportedly said that working with Armie could have damaged his spirit. That, perhaps, was the strongest condemnation yet. Number 7, Jason Momoa. This is the most surprising name on the list. Jason Momoa, known for his larger-than-life presence, booming laugh and rugged charm, is one of Hollywood's most loved action stars. But behind the jokes and beer-chugging, Tom Holland reportedly found Jason overpowering, and even intimidating. In 2019, during a crossover event in Brazil where DC and Marvel stars were both present, Jason and Tom appeared on the same panel. Jason, high energy and playful, kept interrupting Tom's answers and making friendly jabs about Spider-Man being too small compared to Aquaman. Tom played along on stage, but behind the scenes, he was shaken. "It felt like being teased by the loud kid in school all over again," he later said in a private conversation. Backstage, Tom reportedly asked Jason to dial it down and give space during press interactions. Jason laughed it off, allegedly saying, "It's all fun, brother." But Tom wasn't laughing. From that day on, he made efforts never to be booked on the same events as Jason Momoa again. During an interview in 2021, he said, "There are actors who make you feel like you belong, and some who make you feel like a guest at your own party." Insiders confirm this was about Momoa. Despite public friendliness, Tom has never accepted invitations to joint Comic-Con appearances or Marvel crossover panels since. After years of forced smiles, fake friendships, and emotional exhaustion, Tom Holland reached his limit. In late 2022, during a therapy session, he was encouraged to make a list of people who had negatively impacted his emotional well-being. That list became what industry insiders now call the Seven. Tom, meanwhile, stayed silent publicly but more confident privately. Zendaya and Robert Downey Jr. reportedly supported his need to set boundaries. Today, Tom Holland lives a quieter life. He's been more selective with roles, prioritizing meaningful work and safe creative environments. His long-term relationship with Zendaya has deepened, and he's found clarity through therapy and self-awareness. Now if you give this video a like, it really helps us bring you more content. Drop a comment below. Who surprised you the most on this list? Do you think Tom was right? And don't forget to subscribe for more exclusive Hollywood videos and celebrity truths. Hit the bell icon so you never miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, and stay real.